Okay, so in this video we want to look at three things that cause communication breakdown in the neurodiverse relationship. This video is mostly for the NT spouses so that they can kind of make sense of why there's been such a disconnect trying to work on relationship problems and other problems. The three things that get in the way of establishing communication and problem solving and goal achievement, etc., would be theory of mind deficit, weak central coherence deficit, and an executive function deficit. A theory of mind deficit is an inability to recognize that other people have thoughts, feelings, and intentions that are different to one's own, and it's also an inability to intuitively guess what these might be. So what exactly is theory of mind? A theory of mind is the cognitive or mind-reading process or ability that we all individually have in order to make sense of the world we live in. Every individual's thoughts, knowledge, beliefs, and desires make up his own unique theory of mind. As young as age 4, neurotypical kids understand that other people have thoughts, knowledge, beliefs, and desires that will influence their behavior. However, people on the autism spectrum, both as children, teenagers, and adults, appear to have some difficulties conceptualizing and appreciating the thoughts and feelings of others. It is this mind blindness that may impair people on the autism spectrum to be able to relate to and understand the behaviors of others. Mind blindness also means that the individual has difficulty in distinguishing whether someone's actions are intentional or accidental. Theory of mind establishes that people on the spectrum have difficulty considering the perspective of others, such as their emotions, motives, and intents. By failing to account for others' perspectives, people with the disorder tend to misinterpret others' messages. They also tend to talk at length about their own topic of interest because of their difficulty monitoring and responding to social cues and the social needs of others. Many of the social skill deficits observed in people on the spectrum may have their genesis in the lack of ability to decipher subtle meaning from the environment. In other words, these individuals have a global processing deficit. Now let's look at weak central coherence. Central coherence is the ability to focus on both details as well as wholes, or the big pictures. People on the autism spectrum, however, appear to have a heightened focus on details rather than wholes, which is a cognitive style termed as weak central coherence. This is the reason why some people on the autism spectrum have hypersensitive sensory perceptions. This inability to understand wholes or big pictures resides in the frontal cortex of the brain, which in turn also explains theory of mind deficits. The inability to hold information in mind in order to use it later in other tasks is what causes people on the spectrum to lack central coherence. Central coherence theory speaks to the fact that most people on the spectrum are weak in their ability to conceptualize whole chunks of information. They demonstrate a preference for attending to details and relying on their rote memories to make sense of the ever-changing world around them. A lack of cognitive central coherence or gestalt processing can easily cause the individual on the spectrum to miss the importance of the subtle cues that create meaning in a social context, including the difficulty of intuitively understanding the main idea of a conversation. And lastly, let's look at executive function. Executive function deficits would be an impairment in the higher order processes that enable us to plan, sequence, initiate, and sustain our behavior towards some goal, incorporating feedback and making adjustments along the way. So what exactly is executive function? Executive function can be defined as the way in which people monitor and control their thoughts and actions. Executive function is actually a broad category that includes such processes like working memory, planning, cognitive flexibility, and inhibitory control. Inhibitory control is one aspect of executive function that is particularly relevant to language development. Inhibitory control is the ability to restrain or inhibit potentially interfering responses and to self-regulate in certain situations. Executive dysfunction acknowledges that people on the autism spectrum are weak in their ability to orchestrate tasks towards a desired outcome. Executive functioning does not have one definition agreed on by researchers. However, it is generally considered to describe the set of skills an executive would need to stay on top of his job, for example, planning, organizing, prioritizing, multitasking, and so on. Executive dysfunction may make it difficult to maintain a topic in a conversation, as the individual on the spectrum has difficulty maintaining a sense of order in his spoken messages, often producing tangential responses. Also, he may have difficulty with the organization of written expression or independently planning to complete tasks. So those three things right there contribute to communication breakdown. And as a result of these three core deficits, it's understandable why the NT spouse would view her autistic spouse as someone who is simply being insensitive, uncaring, selfish, narcissistic, and generally uncooperative in the relationship.